Hello and welcome to the Expert Exchange. I'm Karina Robertson. Mathis Baumbach, Portfolio Manager and Investment Advisor at Richardson Wealth, is joining me here. Welcome, Mathis.
Thank you, Karina. Thank you for having me back on your show.
Was always a pleasure.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of topics already, I feel like, but this time I would like to talk about an investment topic that has stirring up a lot of conversation over the last couple of years.
All right, and what might that be? I'm thinking it's in the realm of alternative investments.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I'm not sure how much you know about alternative investments.
Yeah, well, I think it's good just to maybe start with the basics. Like, what are alternative investments? What do they mean?
Yeah, if you think about the basics, alternative investments are non-traditional investments. Like the traditional ones are long only cash, bonds, stocks, and alternative investments are more in the, I would say, kind of private equity, private credit, infrastructure space. And I feel like there has been a trend where this is now becoming available to a broader spectrum of investors, whereas before it was mostly institutional investors, high net worth individuals, and family offices. And the idea is you're sacrificing liquidity to get better risk-adjusted returns across the risk-reward spectrum from credit to equity.
Okay, well, those companies sound similar to the dividend stocks we mentioned in our previous interview. Is that sort of correct?
I would say it's a bit different. It's a bit more, think about it, you're trying to find an investment mandate, a little bit more along the idea of finding a mutual fund manager that collects a bunch of stocks and bonds for you. In this case, these are private investment opportunities that are then put together in a mandate. And as I mentioned, the term private equity, private credit, infrastructure comprises a large component of that.
Okay, well, I'm familiar with private equity, which is, in my understanding, is buying companies that are not traded on the stock market. But could you elaborate a little bit on the categories, a little bit more on the alternative side?
Yeah, let me start with private equity and kind of boil it down to the basics. Historically speaking, it has offered a performance advantage over the medium to long term compared to public markets. And if you're looking for a bit of an alpha booster portfolio, that's great for investors. And these private equity investments or private equity firms, they buy up private companies, and they usually use borrowed money to facilitate these acquisitions. And then what they do is they implement their own management team, trying to create some sort of value out of it, and with the ultimate goal of an exit strategy down the road.
Okay, and what about private credit?
Yeah, private credit is also known as private debt, and that is a high-risk income-producing strategy. So if you think about the current fixed income market, you're thinking about maybe 4 to 6% yield. Some of these private debt mandates, they can yield up to 10%. And the way they do it is they are lending out money to these private equity firms to make these acquisitions, and they usually are able to negotiate pretty good terms, and also they're able to position themselves pretty good in the creditor structure. And I think it can serve as a diversification for income investors.
All right, well, that makes some sense. Now can you talk about infrastructure investments?
Mm-hmm. Infrastructure, think about it as a long-dated asset. So it produces some cash flow, but mostly you're in it for the capital appreciation. And the mandates that I've seen a lot lately are in the kind of digital infrastructure space. You also need to think about energy transition, modern transportation, and some decarbonization projects.
Okay, and can you tell us about some of these companies in this space? What are we looking at?
Yeah, as I mentioned, there are a lot of small players in Canada and a few very reputable ones. And then there in the US, on the other side of the border, of course, there's some big players, like think about Blackstone or KKR, which in fact trades on the stock exchange in New York under the symbol KKR. They are kind of cover it all. They cover all strategies, all mandates. And then there's some smaller players like Blue Owl, for instance, also trades on the New York Stock Exchange. And They have a bit more specific. They're focused on private credit, triple net lease real estate, or GP stakes.
Okay, now on the public side, can we actually invest in these alternative companies?
Well, you can, but this is a different type of investing than investing in those mandates. So you're buying a publicly traded company. You can buy KKR, Blue Owl. KKR pays a very modest dividend. Blue Owl is a bit more income focused, pays a bit of a higher dividend, but that's certainly an option for people.
Okay. And do you have a preference for U.S. Asset managers on the alternative investment side?
I wouldn't say I don't discriminate geographically, but I think there's some really unique opportunities because you see these US-based alternative asset managers now coming into the Canadian market. And for the most part, they haven't really rolled out all of their mandates. They usually have rolled out like a vanilla kind of covered all mandate. And some of these private credit firms, they have maybe already rolled out their best mandates, usually structured in some sort of Canadian trust. And I would say you can look on both sides of the border, but I think I'm really excited around what these American private equity firms will do when they roll out these individual mandates, such as like a U.S. high-growth tech mandate.
All right. Now, finally, do you have any words of wisdom for our viewers?
Well, words of wisdom usually I like to borrow. And in this case, I'm borrowing it from one of the godfathers of the alternative investment industry. His name is Henry Kravis, of the co-founder of KKR. And he says, don't congratulate us on buying a business. Any fool can buy a business. Congratulate us when we've done something with it and created value.
Well, very good. Very powerful words for all kinds of things. So thank you so much, Mathis, for stopping by. Mathis Baumbach, he is with Richardson Wealth. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Karina.